Hi, my relatives. Welcome back to Our Storytellers. If you're seeing this, today is September 30th, 2025, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation and Orange Shirt Day. And to honor this time, we wanted to have a powerful and important conversation on the Our Storytellers podcast. You know, our guest that's on today, I've seen her speak before at other spots, and I always felt like there was a ceremonial backing behind her work, a deep spiritual connection behind her work, and I'm really happy to say that on today's episode she shares that with us, and I'm so grateful for that. On today's episode of Our Storytellers, we're joined by a visionary and leader and keeper of the orange shirt story, Phyllis Webstad. Phyllis is a residential school survivor and the founder of the Orange Shirt Society. Her story of having her orange shirt taken away from her on the first day of residential school is one that sparked global conversation. But on today's episode, we go so much deeper. We talk about what life was like growing up with her granny, the intergenerational impacts of the schools, and how Every Child Matters became a rallying cry for justice and remembrance. She also shares about the spiritual experiences that have guided her on this path, a story that she's only beginning to speak about publicly. You've probably never heard her speak about this before, and for me, it was a true honor to listen. I just want you to know that if you'd like to support Phyllis and her team's work, please visit orangeshirtday.org. There's a button to donate to the society. You can find links to the official retailers where you can purchase an Orange Shirt Day shirt, and you can also buy Phyllis's books as well too. All the links to everything that I just talked about can be found in the description of wherever you're listening to this. So please visit and please support. It means so much to me. Honestly, her story is such an amazing one of courage, and it took every cell in her body to build this into the movement that it is today. So I really appreciate her taking the time to sit with us and just to have the opportunity to listen. So without further ado, please welcome to the Our Storytellers podcast, Phyllis Webstad.
Hello, my relatives. How are you? Here at Our Storytellers, we care about your spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical well-being, which is why we want to inform you that this podcast discusses topics that may cause trauma to listeners and viewers. These subjects include mentions of Indian residential schools, assimilation, ongoing harm, colonial impacts, and much more. Our Storytellers recognizes the need to minimize risks associated with traumatic subject matter. The Hope for Wellness Helpline offers immediate help to all Indigenous people across Canada. It is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to offer immediate support and crisis intervention. Services are available in English and French, and in Nehiyaw, Anishinaabe and Inuktitut upon request. If you or someone you know are experiencing any harm, no matter how big or small it's perceived to be, you can call the toll-free helpline at 1-855-242-3310 or connect to the online chat at www.hopeforwellness.ca. Kinanaskaman, I'm grateful for you. Your ancestors are always with you. All my relations, Riel.
Phyllis, thanks so much for coming and coming on the Our Storytellers podcast. It is an honor to have a conversation with you. It really means so much to me, and thank you to Shannon for setting this up too. But I have a blanket, I have a granny scarf, I have some tobacco, and I have some sage here for you. And this is just protocol to open up, just to invite you into my home and just to create connections between your family and mine. And I'm excited just to sit down and just listen and learn from you today. And I'm going to hand this over to you. And in your own way, please introduce yourself.
Xgat'tem, thank you. Yeah. Is it okay if I just keep it there?
You can keep it there, but then just put it back here whenever you
yeah,
want to.
Yeah. I like this kind of sage because you can roll it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. And you put it into the smudge bowl and you can So thank you, Xgat'tem. It's a good way to start for sure. So wait, which is hello in my Secwépemc language. I'm Phyllis Webstad. I'm Secwépemc or Shuswap from the Williams Lake area. My villages of Kenno Creek and Dog Creek are Dog Creek's about an hour and a half southwest of Williams Lake, down by the Fraser. And Kenno Creek is about another half an hour from there. So about 2 hours out of Williams Lake. Before smallpox, they were two separate bands or communities, but after smallpox, they joined for survival and became one band. I grew up with my grandmother. My grandmother is full Secwépemc or Shuswap, and my mother is as well. So, and my grandfather, they're both full Secwépemc, which is getting to be a rarity these days, where there's 100%. And I got Ancestry, and Ancestry verifies it that they're 100. My mom is 100% Indigenous as well as Granny. And my father, I have two dads. My first dad, John, he lives in Calgary, and my biological father, I met him in 2018. He lives in Kamloops, and they're both 93. So they're both still in this world. So I grew up with Granny on the Dog Creek Reserve until I was 10. And then my aunt took me, my mom's sister, after she finished university in Victoria. This was the, what was it, 67, about 1977, which was a rarity and the first in our family for somebody to get university education. So it set a good precedent, I guess, for the rest of us. And my aunt brought a lot of firsts to our family. One of them was she was the first to own a car, a motor vehicle. Growing up with Granny on the reserve, it was always horse and wagon. And there was one, maybe two people on the whole reserve that had vehicles. And the rest of us we had the horses and the wagons, and that's how we got from A to B, or to visit or go to the river to fish. And because of that, the Dog Creek storekeeper, who was non-Indigenous, bought a blue bus that we called the Stage. And when I was working on my first book, telling my orange shirt story, which is called The Orange Shirt Story, I never questioned why we called the blue bus the Stage. But we're along the Fraser River, the gold rush of the 1860s. They brought people and supplies up and down the Fraser River, and they used stagecoaches. And so I guess when the storekeeper bought the blue bus, our people, like a modern day stagecoach, if you will. So that's why we called it the Stage. And so growing up with Granny, spending summers down by the river, the Fraser River, which flows into the Pacific Ocean, just here in Vancouver. So in the summertime, the sockeye come up the river, and we go down to fish. Granny was the youngest of 10. We'd go down and meet her siblings and my cousins, and we'd spend the majority of the summer down by the river. And it was different from the reserve, that it used to take my breath away when you get to a certain point. It's like, there it is, it's huge, and there's sandy beaches. It's my Hawaii. And as a kid, it was always fun to play in the sand. And so we would go down and we fish at nighttime. we don't use gill nets. We use dip nets by choice for conservation. During the day, the fish are traveling up the river. They're going to their spawning grounds. So at nighttime, they come to the banks of the river, and we fish at night because they're resting, and there's less likely for them to see the dip nets. And so when it gets close to dark at our fish camp, we start getting everything together and go and during the daylight find our spot. And so we're more of a social fishery in our area, but the Stswecem'c, the Lillooet people, a few twists and turns downriver, they have family fishing spots, and you don't dare go and fish there anywhere unless you're invited or you're a part of that family. But for us upriver, we're more social, and other people from other communities come and they spend time with us. And even if they come in the dark and ours is the only fishing spot, we take turns. We'll let them in and until they catch their quota, and then they leave. And so we're more of a social, and even sometimes it's hard to get anybody to replace you when you're fishing because you're dip netting, and because everybody's too busy visiting because they haven't seen each other maybe since last fishing season. And it's like,
Your shoulders are getting up.
somebody, I'm getting tired here. Yeah, so it was good memories being down by the river, and which when I present, I always start with that. I talk about what it was like being with Granny. We had no indoor plumbing, no electricity. We didn't have Save On or Walmart to buy food. Granny tanned hides to make money. And that's probably how she was able to buy my first or something for my cousin and I to wear for school. So we went to town on the stage, and
what was Granny like? Like, what was your Granny like as a person?
She, for her residential school story, she didn't talk about the feelings I felt or this happened, and she never cried about it. It was always what happened, like funny things. She learned how to knit, she learned how to sew, she learned how to make bread, and who her friends were and stuff like that. But I think that was because she was in survival mode, as was her mother. Like, because it wasn't just residential school, it was the coming of the miners that brought the disease, the smallpox, wiping out 92% of our Secwépemc people. And then from there, being put onto reserves, being sent to residential school. Like, they were even now, we're in survival mode. So, what I think is to start crying and start spending energy on whatever healing like we do now on our healing journey would be just like you have potatoes to till, you have, garden needs to be weeded, fish need to be done, the berries need to be picked, and there's no time to be like what I say about myself when I first started my healing journey was woe is me. There's no time for that. So Granny was very loving. I learned that I had a good babyhood, but after about the age of 5, that all stopped. No more lap, no more hugs, no more singing. And there's a couple of reasons for that Granny had to prepare her heart to lose her children, 10 of them, year after year, child after child. She had no choice, otherwise they'd get arrested, which my grandfather often did. And the other reason that we were cut off from affection and everything at age 5 was she was preparing us to be in an environment where we did not matter. And so Granny was, yeah, she was tough. She was strong. She lived to be a few months over 100. She passed in 2019. And
Did all 10 siblings go to the mission?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So 3 generations of my family attended the St. Joseph Indian Residential School outside of Williams Lake. It's about an hour and a half, a 2-hour bus ride from our reserve into where the mission was. We called it the mission, and we still do, because it was run by missionaries. And there was a church that was attached to, when I was there, that was built in 1965, a Catholic mission. So it was run by the Catholic Church.
So what is the story behind the orange shirt?
Yeah. I'd always wondered, or I'll go back, but then I'll tell you about the orange shirt. I always thought that I decided to go to the mission. Why would Granny send me? Because she wouldn't have been put in jail if she didn't send me. Because the law, it was still law, but it was not enforced by the time that I went in 1973 for 1 year. But I grew up with Granny, and we went to town, and whenever we went to town, we had to be at our best. We had to behave. We had to look good. We had to smell good. So we always knew town was near when Granny would get us to take a bath and wash our clothes, that what we were going to wear to go to town. So I remember shopping and to go to school, like because I turned 6 in July of 1973, and it's like any other child. You're going to school.
Back
You're
to
a
school shopping.
big girl now, going, and I chose a shiny orange shirt. It had like 3 buttonholes with like a shoelace string in front, and it was bright and exciting, just like I felt to be going to school, I think is why I chose it. And I've recently seen J.C. Penney catalogs from 1973, and it's like a boom, like it's like that bright, it's like a Nemo orange. And I've always been drawn to like really bright colors. And so that's what I chose, and to go to the mission. And of course, when I got there, all of our clothing were taken, so including my orange shirt. And others shared how they their parents learned not to send their best, like their beaded buckskin vests, their good clothes, because some of them would never see it again. And so I don't have a memory of ever wearing my orange shirt again. But to finish the story that I started was with, why did Granny send me? What I've come to understand is she did what she had always done. She had gone, her 10 children, her oldest grandchild, I was her second oldest grandchild. So when I turned 6, she naturally did what she had always done. And so when my my grandson turned 6, I looked at him and thought, there's no way a 6-year-old can decide for themselves to go to a place like that. So that's when I realized that Granny did what she had always done, and that's what she was used to doing. And so off I went.
What was the first day there like?
I remember we all had to take a shower. It was communal showers on the reserve. We heated up water and had a bath by the stove. I'd never seen water coming out of the walls before, and we were just scared, like we'd never seen that. And so that was terrifying. And just having to all like be naked in the shower together. And yeah, it was just a whole foreign experience with a lot of crying. And when I speak to the elementary kids, they ask like, what was it like? How did you feel? And I tell them, you know what it's like when you're in the grocery store or the mall and you lose track of your parent
Mm.
or whoever you're there with, and you automatically just like frozen in fear. You're so scared you could just pee your pants. And that's what it was like. It
Mm-hmm.
was pee your pants terror of, I think even if it was explained to me that I wouldn't come home after I got on the stage, because we'd always gone home. You know, when we get on the stage, we go to town, we go back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even if it was told to me as a new, excited 6-year-old, I wouldn't have comprehended it. And the reason why when I speak, I start with what it was like before going there was I learned a word called disassociation, which is common with residential school survivors. And it was a lot of crying. 5 and 6-year-olds should not be comforting each other. And that was the case. My cousin Barb was 5. But after a while, I learned that my life depended on me, and I learned that at age 6. And I learned to disassociate, which is after a lot of therapy, realizing that when a child, any child, is in a situation that they can't physically get out of, I learned to go anywhere, like my spirit leave my body, and I could go home. I couldn't wait to go to bed so that I could go home. I used to get excited at the end of the day to go to bed because I could go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go home. I would go to the river. I would go to Granny's. I would go to places because it's like being held hostage and not being able to leave. So that was my way of coping.
Mm-hmm. You were there for a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you go back the second year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a life before residential school. I was there for 1 year, 1973, 74, and I've had a life after.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's 1 year of my life. But the impacts are lifelong.
Yeah.
And I didn't go back, even though it stayed open till 1981. I didn't go back because the school district opened a 1-room schoolhouse, which is still standing to this day. It's boarded up. So I was able to go there with other kids from the reserve, the ranchers' kids, the storekeepers' kids, and it was about maybe 3 minutes from Granny's house. It wasn't on the reserve, it was on Crown or whatever you call it, or school district property.
Mm-hmm. And what was going to school there like?
A lot of bullying. Yeah, yeah, we used to get bullied a lot. And think back then it wasn't called that. Not much was done about it, but yeah, we used to have the dentists come out. So it would be we'd have teeth cleanings and extractions and like fillings and stuff as a part of our school day where you'd go
Mm-hmm.
and see the dentist. And in later years when they did get a medical trailer on the reserve. That's where we'd go for dental. But in the early days, that's where they would do that kind of stuff.
Did you enjoy school? Did you enjoy learning?
I don't think it was as enjoyable as it could have been, because nothing was explained to me. Why I didn't have a mom, why I didn't have a dad. I didn't even know who my father was. And that was never discussed with me. I learned the only connection I had to my white father was I tacked white onto my name. I used to, whenever I'd introduce myself, I'd say, my name is Phyllis Mabel Celestine Jack White. White because of my father. Yeah, I forgot where I was going with that.
So you're going to school in the one-room schoolhouse. What were the teen years like for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the intergenerational effects. You hear a lot about how our history and residential schools affected the generations. Granny was a survivor. Mom was a survivor, is a survivor, and an intergenerational survivor. I'm a survivor and intergenerational. My son is a survivor and intergenerational. So one of the effects for me was I was pregnant very young, and a boy paid attention to me because not getting affection as a child, it was nice. I didn't quite know what was happening, but the result is my son. I have one child. I never did have any more children. So I had, on my 14th birthday, my son was 4 months old. I don't wish that on anybody. I lived with my aunt at the time. It could have been a different story. I could be saying I have a child that my aunt made me give up for adoption, or I was pregnant once and my aunt made me have an abortion, but she took in my son as well and raised him until I graduated when I was 17. And so it was like she made it clear to me that he was my responsibility. So I was a drag to my friends. They'd want to go to the movies. Oh, I got to find a babysitter. So I would just be left behind. Because if I couldn't find a babysitter, like sometimes my aunt would, but not all the time. And so I made a commitment to him that I would be there no matter what, because my mom wasn't there for me, and I was going to change it. I was going to be there for him, and I've kept that promise even to today. I'm there for him no matter what. And it wasn't easy, but I wouldn't change anything. And when he graduated, or got his adult dogwood when he was 19, my son never seen the inside of a high school. He got his adult dogwood thanks to the Friendship Center in Kamloops. They had a program, and a teacher took interest in him and offered lunch. So he would get up, go to lunch, and he would work till probably 3. And so he got the credits to get an adult dogwood. And so after he graduated, I became an adult adolescent. I was free. I jumped out of an airplane. I took off to China. I ran away with a strange man to Mexico. I was like I was making up for those for
Wow.
those lost years. So yeah, I've kind of, calmed down now, but uh,
You know,
yeah.
I read online that, I read online before you came that your Aunt Agnes helped you out a lot.
Hmm.
Is there anything that you learned from Aunt Agnes that you still carry with you today?
Yeah, that family is everything. And you look after each other no matter what, and you're there for each other no matter what. And my aunt is known for bringing all of her nieces and nephews out on the land and teaching them and showing them where her life took place and where she traveled with her father in the wagon when she was a young girl, and just passing those stories on. And when she got a truck, she got a Ford truck, I remember in 1985. She saved and saved. I was only allowed 2 pieces of fruit a day because she was saving for a truck. And when she got her truck, we used to go on the back roads and we'd stand up. Like there's nothing holding us. We would stand and hang on to it. Like they'd open the window and we'd hang on, and we'd be driving like on the back roads, standing in the back of the truck. I'd have a heart attack today if I ever seen my grandchildren doing something like that. But back then it was different, different rules and different thoughts,
Hmm.
different living.
To go back to the day you got your orange shirt taken away, if you could tell that little girl something that day before she got to
Mm.
school, what would you tell her?
Yeah, from what I know now is that it'll be okay. That being there will be temporary, that you'll go home after the snow falls and melts. That's when you'll be able to go home. And yeah, and that you're loved and that it'll be okay. Yeah, but there wasn't anybody to tell us anything about why we were there, for how long, how come. Because it was even more confusing because I thought I was going to school. So to get there and then be told that I had to get on this like orange, yellowish bus to go to school. It's like, well, wait a minute. I thought I was at school. But by the time that I went to the mission in 1973, it was a place where we slept and ate.
Hmm.
Unlike Granny, they lived there. Half of the day was spent reading, writing, and math. The other day was spent um, cooking and making bread and sewing and knitting. And then when Mom was there, half of the day was, or they, the younger grades went to school at the mission and the higher grades were bussed out. But when I was there, everybody was bussed out into the public schools in the Williams Lake area. So, and with my cousin, she was a year and a half older. And I remember getting on the bus to go to school, and they stopped, and that's where she was getting out. And I went to go with her, and I was stopped. And oh my goodness, just like screaming and crying again, like, Where's she going?" And not realizing that my school was, 2 or 3 stops later. But yeah, so just a lot of confusion and not a lot of explaining. But even if it was explained, I don't know if I would have understood.
Hmm. So you carry this story about this 1 year in your
Hmm.
life throughout your entire life.
Hmm.
You know, like what I'm hearing is that, you raise your son, sacrifice, or maybe it wasn't sacrifice, I'm not sure. You raise your son, I guess we should say, and then you live a bunch of life after that. Are you ever, because before the day that you share that story, are you ever thinking about that shirt? Like, is it in your day-to-day life, or is it completely suppressed? You never think about it.
Mm. I always disliked the color orange. I didn't own anything orange. There's one picture of me where I was chopping wood and I had an orange jacket on. Yeah, so that's the only thing I ever seen me in orange. But contrary to popular belief, it is not my favorite color. Teal is my favorite color, like that kind of teal blue. What was your question again?
Did you ever think about that shirt on the day-to-day or within life until you shared it on that day?
No, not really. We didn't. Residential school was not something we openly talked about. Maybe the funny stories. So and so was stealing apples and, stealing bread, or something funny happened, or, they had different names for the nuns, and like in our language, to alert each other and stuff like that, but never the feel of it. And anything that would make anybody cry. So it was, yeah, just something I never really. And it's funny, my son's father, after Orange Shirt Day started, I remember talking to him, and he's saying that he didn't know about that story, that I never told him. And which is, yeah, it's not something that we openly talked about. It wasn't a good memory, and I didn't like orange. And I remember being in the bay in Kamloops once, as I like to shop, and seeing orange and just and backing away until I could go around it, because that's how much, because it was almost like that memory again was right there. And so I remember backing up. That was when I was in my early in my healing journey. I remember that happening. But
How much orange do you own now?
I have closetfuls of orange shirts. Yeah, I've even taken over my husband's closet.
With
Yeah,
orange shirts?
his portion of of the closet. Yeah, but he's got his own collection too of orange shirts.
Oh, yeah.
And other things orange as well. I've been shopping, and when I go to special occasions, sometimes it's not appropriate to be wearing just a t-shirt. So
What's the last teal thing that you ever bought, if you can remember?
um oh yeah, I was on Amazon looking for orange shirts, and they had one in orange and teal, so I bought one in orange and one in teal.
Nice, nice.
That was just like last week.
Nice. So you shared that story for the first time at St. Joseph's Mission Residential School Commemoration Project, right?
Yeah.
What was the story of you getting invited, going and speaking at that event?
Well, I moved home in 2004, as I left to get education, and I worked in the federal government for a few years and other places. But in 2004, it was time to move home again. And so I ended up working for a mining company for a gold mine that was in our territory. And I was the community engagement person, setting up meetings between our community and the mining company. But for whatever reason, they ended up selling, so I was laid off. And that was in 2012. So come early 2013, I was on EI. employment benefits, and I didn't have a boss of me. I didn't have anybody telling me, like I didn't have a job to go to. So when I heard that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was coming to Williams Lake in early 2013, they were having meetings, and I thought, well, I'm a survivor. I'm going to go to these meetings and see what's going on. As I've always been, Granny used to call me a question box. I always liked to know what was going on. So I invited myself to the meetings, and sure enough, they accepted me and I was put to work. And about that time, Les Johnson from Esquet or Alkali Lake started a Facebook SJM, St. Joseph Mission reunion group, and we were talking about having a physical reunion. And then when we heard that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC, was coming for a full week in May of 2013, that's the date we decided on, Monday to Friday. So we formed a group for a reunion, and I was a part of that group as well. And since I wasn't working, they chose me as the survivor group spokesperson for media, because we had media events because we wanted Indigenous, obviously, but we also wanted to let everybody know they were invited to the week-long events, even the reunion, to come and participate in like everything. So we wanted school district, we wanted churches, we wanted RCMP, we wanted the ranchers, we wanted everybody to come and participate, and most importantly, to hear the truths of survivors. So we have a book called Orange Shirt Day that tells the whole story of how it was created, and so I was the residential school person on this group. There was a chief, there was the school superintendent, there was a Williams Lake mayor, there was the chair of the Caribou Regional District, and then there was me, unemployed residential school survivor. And so that day I chose to tell my orange shirt story. I don't remember telling it before then. If I had, it hadn't been for a very long time. And so I told my orange shirt story there, and I didn't own anything orange, but I found a green netted mesh pullover to wear. And there was a woman that was also a part of the organizing committee for the TRC event. And she was doing some research, and she seen Murray Sinclair. Remember, this is 2013. There was a video of Murray Sinclair challenging Canadians to keep the conversation happening after the TRC wrapped up, because it was getting pretty close. And as we know, the final report was in June of 2015. So after hearing my orange shirt story, she went home, and the idea came to her in the bathtub that she thought, well, there's Pink Shirt Day. Why can't we have Orange Shirt Day? And so her and others approached me about having Orange Shirt Day. And it was originally just for the mission, the Caribou Chilcotin area, to have conversation at least once a year about residential school. So in response to the late Murray Sinclair's challenge, and I said yes, not knowing what I was getting into. And we chose, when we were talking about choosing a day. We chose September because that's the time of the year the children were taken from their homes and their families. And I overheard an elder say as well that September was crying month. So I knew that we had chosen the right month. We chose the 30th because we wanted teachers time to settle in with their students, to teach them the history, and we wanted time for us to plan an event. And we thought, well, we need a saying, a slogan, something to go with this day, Orange Shirt Day. And so when I shared my story, I shared how we as 5 and 6-year-olds could be hungry, tired, lonely, sick. There wasn't enough adults to come and make it better. It felt like we didn't matter. It felt like I didn't matter. So originally, that's where Every Child Matters comes from. And the more we talked about it, survivors are older and they're elders now, but they were children when they were at these so-called schools. They mattered. And the more we discussed it, there were children that never came home, that were still there, often in unmarked graves. They mattered. So Orange Shirt Day was created to honor survivors and their families and to remember those that never made it home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. With the slogan of Every Child Matters, like, oh man, I have so many questions on top of that. But let's start with, Every Child Matters has grown, like, after that, all that occurred, it spread out like wildfire. How do you want people to use Every Child Matters?
Well, in the beginning, it was just for the mission.
Mm-hmm.
And our first year that we had Orange Shirt Day, we wore orange shirts and we just had buttons. The only one that had Every Child Matters on his shirt was the national chief, Sean Atleo. And there's pictures of that. And because it wasn't to make money, it wasn't, it was to just have conversations so that we could start talking about it and educating people and remembering, and it was timely that the TRC was ending. My orange shirt story is a door opener. It's easy for the kids to understand. And I think another reason why it took hold was that non-Indigenous people could relate, that they have children and grandchildren and couldn't imagine not having a say in having them taken away. Like they couldn't even imagine that, which is what it was like for Granny. Like it was law. She'd go to jail if she didn't. And so it was, it just took off. It has a life of its own. It still does. And I did work unpaid with the whole orange shirt movement. And I started in early 2019, because my first book, The Orange Shirt Story, came out and I went on a book tour for 3 months in 2018. And in early 2019, I was starting to get emails and requests. Are you, go here, go there. Can you, like, just all of these requests, and realizing that I needed to do this full time. Up until then, I worked for the gas station, the Williams Lake First Nation owned Chief William, and realizing I needed to do it full time. But I didn't know how to pay my bills and leave my job. And that's when Van City, through Shannon Henderson, I met her around that time. And they gifted the Orange Shirt Society $40,000. So I was able to quit my job, put that 40 in the bank, because we only had a few thousand in the bank. And we opened an office downtown Williams Lake, and I didn't know how we were going to continue or but I just knew I had to be out there. I needed to insert myself into what was going on, because people didn't even know that I was alive. They thought this was a couple hundred years ago. And because I went on a tour that was funded partly by Canadian Geographic across Canada. And when I'd be introduced in gymnasiums, it would be the real Phyllis Webstad. People didn't even know that I was alive and that there was somebody behind, this whole orange shirt movement. And I was ready to go on EI again, that we only had money to last not even till Christmas that year. What would it have been? 2021. But with the Kamloops 215, it brought the interest to new levels and brought us to where we are today, where we have full-time staff and we have contractors and ambassadors, and we're still not government funded, but we're working on that. And most of our operating comes from our yearly shirt design that I'm wearing right now, and shirt sales and donations. And so we hope to be at least our staff operating to be government funded. That would lift a load off of us, and it's hard to try to make decisions not knowing what we're getting from year to year.
Yeah.
So that was April 2019. So we're just going a little over 6 years now. We've been doing this full time.
Wow.
Paid full time.
Paid full time. That journey, that's an amazing story to hear. And it took a lot of courage to be able to do that. It takes a lot of courage to jump into something that big. And, from a ceremonial, spiritual point of view, do you feel like your ancestors were with you when you made that choice? Did it feel right in your spirit when you made that choice?
Yeah. I have only recently started to talk about the spiritual side of the Orange Shirt movement. And did I tell the story? It's going to take maybe 10 minutes. Yeah.
I have so much time.
Yeah. So my grandmother's first marriage was arranged, which is where I come from. I remember asking her once if what she thought about having an arranged marriage, and she said, I didn't know I could say no. I thought, well, thank goodness you didn't, because we wouldn't be here. And her second husband was around. He passed when I was about 7. Everybody in the house called him Daddy. So I did too, because I didn't have a daddy. So to me, he was Daddy. And I started my healing journey in 1994. when I was 27 years old, I decided that I would not drink. Not that it was a problem, but it was becoming a problem, and I was scared that it would take over me, and I didn't really do drugs. Well, I didn't do drugs. But I decided at age 27 that that was it. I wanted to be a role model for my cousins because I'm Granny's second oldest grandchild, and I wanted to show them that you don't need drugs and alcohol to live and be happy and to have a good life. And so that was 1994, and I went to the Round Lake Treatment Center. They had sweat houses. I grew up with sweat houses, so I knew that that was the place for me to get some healing. And I did anything and everything to feel better, to do better, to think better. So in 1997, my aunt that raised me and my son, Agnes, she was working for the Secwépemc Cultural Education Society, and she was the editor and is credited as the editor on the book Behind Closed Doors, Stories of the Kamloops Indian Residential School. And they were having a book launch for the book and had a reunion as well. And so if you've ever been to the Kamloops powwow, it's not the way it was now, but then it was much smaller, a much smaller arbor. It was more close to the river and the orchards. And so anyway, this was 1997. I'm 3 years into my healing journey. And they flew in Satsan, Herb George. My aunt had gone to Prince George College with him. And I don't know who he worked for. He was pretty important anyway. I remember that because he flew in, and then after he spoke, he had to go back to the airport to fly back out. So to me, that he was an important person. And get emotional here. But when he started talking, and I knew exactly what he was saying, and I felt it. And because he was talking about being a survivor, about his family, and about his life. And it paralleled mine, and I knew exactly what he was saying. And to me, that told me that I was on the right path, that what I was doing, going to treatment, going to sexual assault counseling, going to individual therapy, going to group therapy, going to the gym, going for walks, going to ceremony, like all of I did everything and anything to feel better about myself and to be a good role model. I'm only 3 years in on my journey. So he got me crying. Not just how I'm tearing up now, but actually downright gut sobbing and just letting it all out. This is 97, and it's not like now where you have supports and you have smudging and you have like everything. All they had was a little hut down by the river, and Lee Brown was there, and there was a chair, and that's where they brought me. And I couldn't even tell Lee what was wrong because I didn't even have the words to tell him what it was, but my spirit knew. And so I just cried, and Lee didn't know what to do with me. And so he said, there's a sweat schedule on the schedule, and I got to go and lead a sweat. It was down by the water, just around where the orchard is in Kamloops. And he said, do you want to come into the sweat? I grew up with them. They helped me at treatments. So I thought, yeah, that's a good thing. So he brought me out to the parking lot, gave me a pair of his shorts and a shirt, and I got changed, and I followed him, still crying, down the path down to the sweat house. And there's other people there, not too many, 3 or 4. The fire had been, that's probably where he left to go, was to tend to the fire when I was sitting there crying. I calculated it later. I cried for 4 straight hours. And so anyway, get into the sweat, and they're putting rocks in, how they brush it off, and then they'd put a little bit of tobacco. And if you've ever been in the sweat, it's dark and the rocks, and it was just like dancing. And the smell of the whatever they had was just like glittering. And then the thought came to me, I'm still crying. The thought came to me, oh, those kids, they're being silly. And, because they were like being like laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, I guess in the spirit world, because I'm trying to make sense of it. Like, why would there be so many kids? Because I grew up believing in the spirit world and in ghosts, as you call them. And, it's just, they're here with us. You just can't see them unless you want to and they let you. But, so I thought, oh, they must, in the spirit world, everybody must revert to being a kid because there was no elders in the group. So looking at that, watching the kids being silly, sparkling. Then all of a sudden, in one of the rocks, a skull formed. The eyes. It wasn't sparkling like the other ones. It was clear, orange. And then started talking to me. And it was Daddy. And it was telling me stuff. And I was, you know how you get when you cry or he was telling me stuff, and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, yeah. It wasn't verbal, it was like mental. And as he was telling me, I remember thinking, this is so freaking cool. I'm going to remember, what he's telling me. This is like, so, like, this, so cool that he's telling me these things. And that's the only way I stopped crying. And then the sweat started, and I got out, and we're all sitting around, have something to eat, and I don't remember who was there, but I know Lee was there. And the only thing that I remembered that Daddy told me was, keep doing what you're doing, you're on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, really? That's all that I'm going to remember? Because what he was telling me was like, and yeah, so I didn't tell anybody that story for a long time. Because one, I didn't want anybody to think I was cuckoo. And that it was mine. It was my experience. It was sacred. It was like, oh my God, I never had that before. And it wasn't until to Kamloops 215, and a bright day that I was bringing the truck in. I have a 2019 Dodge Ram. That's the year Granny died, so I wanted the orange truck. I was bringing it in to be deckled and have her birthday on the back window, and it was really it was just a beautiful day. And on a Friday we get the day off, so we're kind of, you can just relax. And I started thinking about being in that experience. And by the time I dropped the truck off and I was walking downtown to our office, I was turning left at the CIBC, and as I was turning left, walking there, it hit me. That was to Kamloops 215 in that sweat house with me.
Mm-hmm.
The kids, they were just right there, the orchard.
Wow.
I was bullied in school. I left my son with my aunt, and I lived with a family in Kamloops for my grade 12 year. I lived with Chief Roseanne Casimir and her family. I was 17, she was 16, her sister was 14. She had 2 brothers and her mom. And the phone would ring sometimes. We thought we had a weird stalker. So if Monica would answer, be kind of dead silence, I would answer, dead silence. But if Roseanne answered, be kids or babies. She'd be like, "You kids, quit playing with the phone." But it was Chief Roseanne Casimir that announced to Kamloops 215. So I don't think it was, there's no coincidences that her and I were brought together. So when we had our second annual Every Child Matters hockey game in Kamloops last year, I made sure that her and I held the puck as we dropped the puck. And to further the story, the spiritual side, a couple of years ago, my cousin Sarah travels with me. Her mom and my mom are sisters, and we went to Wolastoqiyik territory over in New Brunswick, and the Grand Chief there insisted that he welcome us to his territory. We weren't speaking, at any of his events, but he wanted to have a pipe ceremony. So we went to this. It was supposed to be down by the river, but it was raining. So we went to this school and we sat in a circle. And there was quite a few of us. And he had his pipe ceremony. And they sang songs, and me and Sarah were sitting together. And so he was done his ceremony, and he asked a guy in the corner in the language, asked him to sing a song as he was finishing getting his, emptying his pipe and putting stuff away to sing. And so everybody, they didn't stand up, we're just all sitting, and they started singing. It was like angelic. The tears just started. Sarah's looking at me. Like I didn't know what was going on. And then it came to me. They're singing a song that was in the sweat as Daddy was talking to me. Wow. My spirit knew, but it took a while for my brain to catch up. And so when they were done, I asked Ron Tremblay, is his name, Chief Tremblay. I asked him, that song you guys just sung, what's the name of that? And he asked the guy in the language. And the guy said, the ancestors' song. So I asked them, can I have 10 minutes of your time? I have to tell you a story. So I told them that story. But what I learned was Wolastoqey were the off-paper first residential schools. So it only makes sense that East was in there with me that day as Daddy was talking. And as I finished Chief Tremblay, he's like, he referred to what I just said as a vision. It's like, oh, Sarah, I think I done had me a vision. I'd never heard it referred to as that before, but and then just a most recent update. I don't know if heard, but me and Sarah were in Kamloops, and this was a couple of months ago. At the Kamloops Residential School on the bottom, what they call the missing children, Stswecem'c, I think is what it's called. I know because we're having our Every Child Matters hockey game in Kamloops again, and we wanted a tour of the building. So I thought I'm going to go right there and I'm going to find somebody to help me, because last year trying to do it by email was just not working. So anyway, Jeanette Jules heads up that whole department. We ended up sitting around meeting with her, and I ended up telling her the story, because I'm going more public with it now. And I told Chief Casimir a couple of years ago, and so I just felt it was that I needed to tell her. And when I was done, what she said was, there's 3 more to come. You've had 2. There's 3 more, and the 5th will set you free. I think it's people ask, how is it? How do you do this? It's because of the ancestors, because of my family. And I teared up like I did now when she said the 5th will set you free. I'll always do this work, but it feels like I'm owned. That my life hasn't been mine. Like, I'm not complaining, because I voluntarily do this. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. But at some point it would be good to not do as much. I'm turning 58 in a couple days. And I thought, I'm going to do this gung-ho till I'm 65. Then I'm going to kind of do an evaluation of where I am, if I'm still here, about what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. But for the past few years, it's anything and everything is game, just to get out there, to be known, and to keep the society going, and to do what I can with the help of others, of course, to change society's mindset about what happened to us and why we are the way we are right now, why our families are like they are, our communities. And like, my grandchildren are the first in 5 generations to be raised by their mother and their father. So Granny, Mum, me, and my son didn't have that. And so, so when she said the 5th will set you free, and I don't know what those are, when they'll happen. It's kind of like a Tetris, things falling into place. And But I guess my spirit will let me know when something happens, and that was a third thing that in the sweat with Daddy that day, fourth, and she said there's 3 more.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that's the spiritual story of what's behind Orange Shirt Day.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
You might have to split the podcast up into 2 parts.
Hi, my relatives. We're pausing the podcast quickly to talk about how you can turn listening into action. The story you're hearing today from Phyllis Webstad has sparked a movement for truth across the country, all led by our not-for-profit, the Orange Shirt Society. If you're moved by Phyllis's story and want to support the vital work of honoring survivors and educating future generations, here's how you can help. Please visit orangeshirtday.org. There, you can find a button to donate directly to the society. You can also purchase an orange shirt through one of their official retailers. Lastly, you can also purchase one of Phyllis's books. All the links to everything that I just mentioned are found in the description of wherever you're getting this podcast. Speaking of podcasts, let's get back to it. You know, I'll tell you a quick story.
Mm-hmm.
You actually came and spoke at my work in 2022.
Where was that?
Fraser Health.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up in a ceremonial family, like obviously I know Shannon, right? And I know the amount of work that to build something like this takes. It takes every cell of your body, and you have to believe in every cell. And I truly believe Creator will provide you the resources that if you are on the right path, it'll all fall into place. And I knew when I heard you speak for the first time that there's a ceremonial back to this. I've always wanted to know what that is, and I'm just so grateful to hear it. And I truly believe that Creator doesn't give you things that you can't handle. The ancestors don't give you things you can't handle, and whatever challenge is in your path, and I recognize that it's a big burden to carry something this large, to be a voice and to represent something that's happened. Like my dad's 60 scoop, a little bit different, but he's a survivor. I'm a survivor of that too. The burden is big, but I just want to let you know that I see you as a person. I recognize, I know what it takes to make something go this big. And even when you have an organization like Our Storytellers has almost fallen apart 10 different times, maybe, losing cameras, losing resources. And I'm sure you've had times like that too. Well, you've said that you've had times like that, and I mean, good people around you definitely help out, So I appreciate that. And
yeah, Shannon Henderson has been one of the huge. She's got my back, and I know it.
She's had my back for the last 10 years, 7 years. She has, in a way, Shannon is now the chief operating officer.
Yes.
Right? Of Orange Shirt Society. And she's taking care of me. Her and her husband Dave have taken care of, when I first moved here, this is my mom's house, right? I was 19 years old, I still am an idiot, but a bigger idiot then, And they were stopping us from lighting fires in the backyard and setting the house on fire and stuff like that. And, giving me food, throwing stuff over. The pandemic, I would have lost my mind without having good people, family like them to take care of me. So I know what she's capable of, and her story is amazing too. And I mean, how has the team evolved over all these years?
Yeah, we've added a few staff because I was hesitant to hire staff on payroll with benefits. You just never know from year to year. And so this year we took the plunge and took them off as contractor status and hired them. And because we were about to lose one person for sure if we didn't do something. So I didn't want to lose them, so we put them on payroll with benefits, pension, and dental, medical, and we take care of our staff when anybody has a loss. We like financially we help. We give them time off. We pitch in. We all rally around that person, and I think that's important. And like to not what is it? The colonial government. I think I got 3 days for bereavement. And yeah, it's much more than that. And so we have a good team right now, complete with ambassadors, and we're looking into we are across Canada. I travel across Canada. We now have a staff person in Ontario. And so who knows what's next to we haven't talked about an office, but we are. Should I talk about the April? Can I say the date and everything because it'll come out after? Yeah. So Orange Shirt Day started in 2013. Students that were in kindergarten in 2013 are graduating in June of 2026. So starting 2026 for 4 years, we're going to have events across Canada. And I'm calling it a stepping stone on the path to reconciliation in Canada. So we're putting Canada on notice that this is happening in Williams Lake and other cities across Canada, towns, villages, communities. They're graduating with 12 plus 1, so 13 years of Orange Shirt Day residential school teachings. So they've learned about what happened to us. They have empathy for us and our history, and even learning about current day, the effects. And so these grade 12 graduates are coming out into the world in June of 2026. So we're having a big event in Vancouver in April 2026 at BC Place. It's going to be a full day. We're inviting colleges, universities, companies like recruiting agencies, because these are grade 12s. We'll have a Indigenous valedictorian and non-Indigenous valedictorian. It's for everyone, Indigenous and non, to come. So 60,000 is the number of people that we're expecting. We'll have artisans, we'll have we're a career fair, and the memorial cloth for the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation will be there as well. So we'll start off with ceremony, and the Three Nations will start us off. And we'll have entertainment, we'll have speeches, we'll have food. And so for 4 years, that's our only one that I know of for 2026 because it's a lot of work to plan. But 2027, we're planning on Calgary and Toronto. 2028 and 2029, I want to go to Winnipeg, Halifax, somewhere in Saskatchewan, maybe. So for 4 years anyway, because 4 is the sacred number, and we don't want to do it forever, but just to let Canada know that this is happening, that students are coming out. And I look forward to the societal change that will bring. They're going to be our next lawyers and judges and doctors and bank tellers, and yeah, so I look forward to the change. And I can see myself maybe when I'm 80 years old with my cane, white hair dyed orange, coming and telling the story of how I've seen society change. And yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, I will be there for sure. I'll be coming through.
You'll have orange hair too.
I'll have orange hair too. Yeah. Yeah, I'll get Shannon to dye it.
Mhm.
How do you feel about denialism when people
Mhm.
say, you know, didn't happen or get over it or anything?
Where's the bodies?
Yeah.
Where's the bones?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in my book that's coming out, Decolonization in Me, in August of this year, what I say is the story's this long. What they know is this much. And they make up this much. Or they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And that was the reason behind Decolonization in Me, is to hopefully fill in a little bit of what they don't know. There's history in there. The interesting thing is I've never had a denier physically face to face. I've seen them on social media. I've heard about them. I've seen them on TV. I've never, with all the presentations I do, I've never had one. I've welcomed them. So with all the Facebook things they say, I tried to address some of that in Decolonization in Me. And what I say is, if you don't own it, you don't know it. So, and I call deniers, when I see, the comments and stuff, I call it the peanut gallery. Because they're not qualified to have an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know the whole story. I don't tell the whole story when I talk. When the story is this long, when I talk, you might get maybe half of it. But in my family, there's stories that aren't mine to tell that may never be told, that impact us today. And one of the things that, because 2021 was to Kamloops 215, I've seen, where's the bodies? I'm not going to believe until I see some bones or I, see some evidence. And that's really hurtful. That denialism is a non-Indigenous issue. We have enough to deal with. So it's up to non-Indigenous people to deal with those deniers. What's that, Maya Angelou? When you know better, do better.
Mm-hmm.
And that I know some survivors, me included, would love to be in a room with deniers. We listen to them if they'll listen to us. That may happen one day, but yeah, I don't know. It's in the special interlocutor report, and with the late Murray Sinclair, they said that denialism is the last step in genocide. So genocide in Canada is not finished yet. And it probably won't be for quite a while, a few years. But there were 150,000 children plus taken from their homes and their families. When the TRC started, they said there was 80,000 survivors left. I went to a workshop or conference in Winnipeg put on by the National Center in 2023, and they said the number of survivors was about 40, so half of that.
Mm.
And it continues to decline on a daily basis. So those in elementary now will live to see when it hits the news that the last survivor has died. It's gone. We're gone. And truth comes before reconciliation, and the truth is not yet fully told. And whenever I talk and companies, they talk about their reconciliation action plan, I respectfully ask you to rename it Truth and Reconciliation Action Plan. We're still here. We still have truth to tell. There's not many of us, but we're still here. And the truth is not yet fully told. And we were in Ottawa a week or so ago, and I seen in cement as we turned the corner, it just said reconciliation. I was like, I got to get a hold of that company or that government, whoever they are, and they need to put truth and reconciliation, not just reconciliation on its own. So, yeah.
Speaking of truth and reconciliation, there's a National Truth and Reconciliation Day now. I think this is a good question for the audience, but does Orange Shirt Day and National Truth and Reconciliation Day, do they go together?
Yeah, I advocated for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation that it's the implementation of TRC's recommendation number 80. So the first bill that was introduced was by Georgina Jolly-Bois, an MP, and she wanted June 21st as the day. But they debated, and June 21st, National Indigenous Peoples Day, is to celebrate. They wanted TRC number 80 was more of a remembrance and more somber. And that's why September 30th was chosen. And I was in on that. I was a part of providing statements to the committee. And so the first bill died because of an election. It was brought back. So early 2021, we were writing letters, making phone calls with the national chief then, and just trying to get it past third reading because it wouldn't go past third reading in the House of Commons, no matter what we did. I would check to see that you can go online and see what the agendas are whenever they would go in session, and it was never there. But the day after Chief Casimir announced to Kamloops 215, I got a call saying it was going to receive third reading. I forget the numbers. It's Bill C5 and Bill C369. I forget which one was first and second, but it was, Bill C5, Bill C369. And so they called that morning. I remember it was a Friday, May 31st. So I credit to Kamloops 215 for the National Day. But my thought was like, well, I don't care. My thought was what was happening with the announcement. And it was like it just happened yesterday. Like we were in crisis, we were in chaos, we were like how you are when a close family member dies. You have things to do, you have people to see, you have, like, that's where my brain was. I have to check on my mom. I got to go see my son, my grandchildren. We got to light fires. We got to do stuff. And I wasn't thinking about the National Day. But I didn't count on being tossed aside, because there's companies today that use the orange shirt and they put whatever they want on it and call the day National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, totally forgetting Orange Shirt Day, Every Child Matters. And that's really hurtful to me. I don't own the orange shirt symbol, but they're using it. And I know everybody knows where it comes from. So as a way to get around, because we now have the trademark, the Orange Shirt Society has a trademark for Every Child Matters, to get around our licensing, and it's not, we're getting automated online, so it's not, it's something easily done. But to get around that, people are just totally pushing Orange Shirt Day, Every Child Matters aside. And yeah.
How can companies respectfully collaborate with Orange Shirt Society if they want to use it?
Well, we're getting an online licensing system going that we've spent a bit of money on and a lot of time. And we now have a full-time staff, or I guess three-quarter time, working on the licensing agreements. And it's not unreasonable. But it's been a long time coming, because it just took off so fast that it was out of control, and everybody and anybody was doing whatever they wanted. So now we applied for the trademark in 2020, and we just received it in just the last few months.
Congratulations.
April or May, I think it was, of just like a couple months ago. So it's very new. So we were trying to be proactive for once and spent some money on getting a web designer to come up with a way online to obtain licenses, and a way for us to get in, a little bit of revenue for our operations as well. So.
Hi, my relatives. Just a quick pause in today's podcast. Here at Our Storytellers, our mission is to provide a space for people to share their truths and their stories. We truly believe that listening can heal. Listening allows us to connect with one another, and it also allows us to learn from one another. So if you'd like to support the work that we're doing here at Our Storytellers, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify. Like, share, and comment on these podcasts. Every bit of engagement helps these podcasts travel a little bit further. So thank you so much. Now back to the podcast.
Yeah, when we first created Every Child Matters, and people started using it, we were happy. We said, go ahead, do your own designs. Just don't take other people's designs. And as long as you put Every Child Matters, and that the shirt be orange, not black, not purple, not green, not pink, because my shirt was orange. And so now that we have the license, we can clean up the market, so to speak, because there's a lot in Vietnam, other countries that are and have been stealing designs, creating orange shirts and every kind of merchandise imaginable, and making profit off of it. So we're in the early stages of cleaning up the market and getting more control over our slogan, Every Child Matters.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that. I've definitely seen some seen some spots where I was a little bit curious.
Mm-hmm.
I got my shirt from Walmart. They're in agreement, right? So, yeah, I'm just happy to hear that because it's your story,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Like I think it definitely belongs to stay within the society. You know what I mean? And give credit where credit is due, and that's just a respect
Mm-hmm.
thing, and that's how our indigenous worldview. That's how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So tell me
Mm-hmm.
this. Okay, how many flights have you been on, do you think, in the last, how many flights have you been on, do you think, in the last 10 years?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about that too, that it's a miracle that I haven't brought home bed bugs because I've been in so many hotels. And it's something that I worry about when I go home. So I don't think I've ever said that before. And my husband even too. Yeah, because we have these covers for our mattresses when we bought new mattresses, and it's like it is a worry because there's just so many hotel rooms, and I can't even think to count how many flights and how many hotel rooms we've been at. It's like, oh, hey, we pull up to a hotel, look around. Yeah, I stayed here before. I don't know when it was, but I know I've been here before. Yeah.
How are you taking care of yourself with this
Mhm.
mission that you've dedicated your life
Mhm.
to? And then my second part of that question is, does writing help give you a little bit of an outlet away from
Mhm.
it?
Yeah, I have I've been because I've my publisher and I have been talking about like an autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
If it's written by someone else about me, like interviewing me, or if I do it myself. So I have a lot of files where I journal and so that helps. I haven't been doing it much lately, but for a while there, especially in the early days, I was doing it a lot. And but early in my healing journey, I learned that walking is helps physically. It's my time to pray and to talk to the ancestors and the spirits, and it puts oxygen in my blood so that I sleep better and I feel better, I think better. So I really need to get air and walk more than I do, and I know that. And it never helps to hit up a mall now and again for some retail therapy. I've got enough clothes, but it doesn't hurt to look. Yeah, food with family is always a good thing. I'd rather I spend money on a good dinner with family. It's my eldest aunt's 80th birthday in a couple days, and my 58th a couple days after that. So we'll be having some good eats somewhere.
Good. Happy early birthday to both of
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Couple of fun questions here. This one I got from an insider. What does the number 13 mean to you?
It's my lucky number.
It is?
Yeah. Um, I was born July 13th, and 13 is the K to 12, so 13 years in 2026 that the kids are graduating. And yeah, it's just always been my lucky number. I always pick it when I pick lottery numbers. And
Have you ever got a big one?
no.
What to go back to the educator part of that, like what do you want educators to know about Orange Shirt Day, the Orange Shirt Society?
Yeah, it's because of the teachers that what's happening is happening. They're the ones showing the videos to the students, and they in the beginning I spent a lot of time with teachers because they wanted to teach the history, but they didn't feel qualified and they didn't want to do it wrong. But what I would tell them was just take my story. We have curriculum that goes with it. And later, beyond the orange shirt story, for the older grades, we have curriculum and they're in French as well. Just to follow that and go by that and get people in if you need to, survivors or the families of survivors, to, collaborate with them and cooperate with what's being in the curriculum. And so teachers, I credit them for the whole orange shirt movement. Because it was, if I would meet a youngish person, 25, 30ish, I would ask them if they knew about Orange Shirt Day. They would be in a company and they would say yes, usually if they had children, and they would say no if they didn't have children. And I just met somebody in the last couple of weeks that just learned about Orange Shirt Day last year when her child started school.
Mm.
So it's the teachers in the schools that are mostly to credit for everything that's happening. And after COVID, well, during COVID, turning to Zooms and online presentations, that's when I started doing a lot of government, colleges, universities, corporate. And so for 2026, I want to actually put a tour together for elementary and high school, and because I credit them with the movement, bringing it to what it is.
What do you want the movement to become? Or do you not even think about that and just let the journey go for it?
I know I want to see societal change. You think about the grandfather and his grandchild trying to open a bank account and getting arrested. I don't want to see stuff like that or hear about it. Just to be treated like a human being. And I see evidence of that now, where I'm being treated like a human being, not an alien with 2 heads and 4 arms and 4 legs. Because a lot of times we weren't thought of as human beings who had a right to be on this earth or to breathe this air or to walk this earth like the other people. But that's not true. We have a lot to offer. We were the first peoples here, and there's a lot to learn about that history, both for Indigenous and non-Indigenous. Because when I moved back home in 2004, I learned a lot of my history then. It wasn't talked about or taught in schools, and I'm 58, and I've heard people my age that have doctorates that never learned, they have their old PhD and they never took a course on Indigenous history. So all of that's changing, and as a result, it's going to change for a better life for our people, First Nation, Inuit, and Métis, to not have to struggle so much like some of us do and have had to do, and to have a better life. And like Murray Sinclair said, to grow up to be who we were meant to be. And I can see my grandchildren starting to, my oldest grandson, he'll be 21 in August, and he's going to be going to college, and he's growing up to be who he was meant to be, not worrying about where his next meal's going to come from, or, violence in the home, or just stuff that I've had to deal with on my healing journey.
Mm-hmm. How many books have you written? 6? 7? 6 and the 7th is coming out.
I forget.
Ah, oh, dang. 6 and the 7th is coming out. What's your writing process like?
Well, my publisher helps a lot, because I get an idea, and so all of my books have been motivated by the children and what I need to be able to assist me to tell my story to children firstly, and then for the older ones as well, to be able to, because I have a 1 year experience. My experience was a walk in the park compared to Granny, my mom, my aunts, and my uncles. And so the orange shirt story was basically most every memory I had of that year, the experience I had there. And then beyond the orange shirt story was my eldest aunt, my mom, my aunt that raised me, my granny story, my great grandmother. She didn't go to residential school. My son and my two oldest grandsons. So it's 6 generations of my family story. So it was a lot of interviews and writing and editing, and so my publisher helped with that. And yeah, with Every Child Matters, I realized that's when we were applying for the trademark that I didn't have a book called Every Child Matters. So we created Every Child Matters, and kind of I didn't tell the history before, so that's I wanted to tell about how before smallpox we had our songs, we had our our ways of dressing, our regalia, our moccasins, our spiritual side. And then with the coming of residential school and everything, all of that was broken. And then now how the book ends is how it's changing, how we're drumming again, we're wearing our moccasins, we're learning who we are again. And my book that came out last year, Today is Orange Shirt Day, is a board book, and it's a feel. Because when Every Child Matters came out, my youngest granddaughter, she had no patience. She just wanted to flip, touch, and I'd still be reading and she'd be trying to flip the page. So I told my publisher, we need a book that you could say the words really fast before they flip the page on you and for them to feel. So that's how we came up with Today's Orange Shirt Day. And my third grandson, he used to sit on my lap and he'd say, "Right, Grandma? Every child matters, including me." So that's how the book ends. It's with a mirror and picture of him with his haircut, kind of a mohawk pointing. So yeah. And
That's so cute.
the decolonization in me was motivated by just all the deniers and all the people that don't understand the true history of this country, about how we're a burden to taxpayers and we don't pay our own way, and we're a bunch of drunks, and just it's far from the truth. And we're beautiful people that have a lot to contribute to this country, and putting some history in there as well, and challenging some of the posts. We actually put the actual, well, not the name, but the what people are saying.
Oh, you put like a
on
screenshot of the
yeah,
actual.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then we'd talk about it, and
Oh,
yeah,
debunk it.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
I like that debunk.
Debunking. It is
Lots of
definitely
debunking.
lots of debunking. We're going to ask you a couple questions that we ask every single podcast guest here on Our Storytellers. But what do you want, Indigenous peoples in my generation and future generations to start doing today?
Mm-hmm. To look at Indigenous people as human beings who have brains, who are educated, and even if someone isn't educated, they still have a contribution and they have a life story, and to be open to listening to those truths, especially survivors, and believe them. With the deniers, I would never think to hear a story and walk away and think, oh, they're full of it, and not believe what they're saying. I don't understand how deniers could do that.
What does ceremony mean to you?
I need more of it in my life. I know that. Simple act of smudging for me is ceremony. Being at a pipe ceremony. There's all kinds. With the smallpox, it wiped out a lot of our knowing and of what is Secwépemc, what is our way. But we've grasped on to other ways of knowing and believing and doing, and yeah, going to the powwow.
Is there anything that, last few questions here, but one question I want to ask you is, what is something that you always want to talk about, but you never get the chance to?
Yeah, I would love that my family's story be told, but it's not my story to tell. For those that may be unable to or are unwilling, but there's truth that may never be told, and there is people go to their graves not telling what happened to them. And I wish every survivor that's alive would be able to tell their truth of what happened. That's what I wish, and that it's not shameful what happened. In a lot of cases, it's not their fault what happened to them. And that society needs to know what happened, what their truth is. But it's not my story to tell.
Agree. Would you like to dedicate this to anybody?
I guess to my family, to my mom's, my granny's family, to the ones that have passed on, to the ones that are still here. At one time, Granny had 40, I haven't counted in a while, 40 grandchildren, and, even more greats and great-greats. So everybody that's alive. And we just lost a cousin at the end of May, so not very long ago, and it really hit our family really hard. And she had a childhood disease that took her before her 49th or before her 50th birthday. And so to her name is Shannon as well. And yeah, so dedicated to everybody past and present in my granny's family.
How can somebody help the Orange Shirt Society? Or how can someone contribute?
So the Orange Shirt Society is not government funded. We're a nonprofit. We are not charitable, but we're going to be looking into receiving charitable status. And our programs are, right now we have Quilts for Survivors that was started by Vanessa Grenier in Timmins. And so we have a group that we make quilts and present them to residential school survivors. We have the Orange Jersey Project that's headed up by my son, that's teaching the history through sport. It started with hockey and it's moving to other sports. We have the speaker series, Survivors, and Families of Survivors as well, where if a company or somebody's looking for a speaker, they can go on our website and choose the person that they want, either in person or to do, like, I call it Zoom. I know there's Teams and different ones, but we have ambassadors as well that are helping us to be out there. We'll be having our graduation events in the upcoming years.
The link to the
Yeah.
whole website will be in the description,
Okay,
and the links to your
yeah.
books.
And OJP.
Yeah, the links to
Yeah.
everything that we
Yeah.
talked about today is going to be in the description or wherever the audience is getting this. But
So to support, there's a link on our website for donating. We're unable to give a charitable receipt at this point, but we hope to have that changed in the next little while. I'm not sure how long. We have a crosswalk program where we work with communities, and they have Every Child Matters written in orange on a crosswalk. There'll be 2 unveiled in the Lower Mainland in September, so Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh.
perfect.
Did I say it properly?
You got it. You had it. You got it. You know, just to wrap this up, Phyllis, like, you know, you've been a hero of mine. You know, I've followed the journey closely over the last 2 years or last few years, and yeah, I just appreciate everything that you do for everybody. And I know it's a difficult job, and there are probably days where you just want to sleep it off or anything like that. But your spirit is strong, and you're an amazing leader. And it's been an honor to sit with a matriarch like yourself here today. And yeah, I'm just grateful. And if you need anything, like, we are not the most professional setup ever. You know, I'm sure there's cameras around you at all the time, but if you ever need anything, just give us a call, or Shannon will go, Real, over the fence, and I'll be there to help.
I need one of those Tim the Tool Man.
Exactly. Thank you so much for coming on Our Storytellers, and if you ever want to come back and have another visit, you're always welcome.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Hi, my relatives. Thank you so much for holding space for this important conversation. Phyllis, thank you so much for your strength and courage and everything that you do for this movement. And every time you've ever told this story, it means so much. And thank you for taking some time to share it with me. I'm so grateful. And thank you to everyone on your team that works so hard for truth and reconciliation. Thank you to everybody. And as a reminder to everyone listening to this, if you'd like to support Phyllis and her team, please visit orangeshirtday.org. There's a button to donate. You can buy an orange shirt from an official retailer, and you can also support Phyllis by buying one of her books. All the links to that can be found in the description of wherever you're accessing this podcast. And as always, if this story moved you, please share it. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Spotify, leave a comment, leave a like. Every bit of engagement helps these stories travel a little bit further. Thank you for joining us on Orange Shirt Day and the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Kinanas, I'm grateful for each and every one of you. Your ancestors are always with you. All my relations, Riel.